Welcome into a Football Friday, along with former Wolverine Jerry Diorio. I'm Dennis Fithian. We're ready to kick this one off. Welcome in, Jerry. Good to see you. How are you?
Denny, how the heck are you? Hell to the victors. I forgot to mention that last week at the end, so I just wanted to start off with it. Hell to the victors.
Not a bad way to start a program. We're going to be talking about Michigan and Purdue. Of course, Michigan with back at it after a bye week. They're hosting Purdue in a night game tomorrow. Jerry's got some film he's going to show. Looking forward to that. We do have, like things could be breaking every minute, as you know, with this NCAA story in Michigan and possible suspensions. Michigan's president, Santa Ono, reportedly is meeting with the Big Ten commissioner, Ono Petitti, right? And he was going to be in town anyways, but now they are getting together to talk about what's going on with this situation with Michigan. They signed stuff. So Jerry, that's where we start. What do you make of this meeting and the possibility? There's talk that there could be in November, like right now, suspension of Jim Harbaugh for multiple games.
Well, here I'm going to start off by saying this, Denny.
All right.
Anybody who says they know exactly what's going on here is lying through their teeth because nobody knows what's happening. As far as the suspension is concerned, again, I don't know. This is not my strength. This is not my profession. I come on. I wanted to talk about football. This is something that's going into freaking lawsuits and courts and all this other junk that I wanted to stay away from all my life. That's what I wanted to stay away from. Okay. As far as the suspension of, I don't understand how we're going to just suspend a coach when we haven't had all the facts laid out from both sides. There's a due process that everybody is entitled to. And as far as I'm concerned, those people that were on that Big Ten football coaches call and those ADs that were calling for the suspension, if they're wrong, they could be looking at some serious issues later on down the road in the courts themselves.
Jerry, that's where I would jump in with you. Like, to me, for as long as I've watched college football, that I've watched other teams go through situations. You want to call it a scandal, whatever. I've watched teams recruiting violations. Cam Newton, during the season, and people calling for suspend him, lock him out of the championship game, and it doesn't happen because the NCAA, the conferences, they say, look, yes, we're going to not have a rush to judgment. We're going to, serve some allegations. We're going to allow people, that's process that you're talking about. So, I was arguing that last night, and then it just popped up like, no, the Big Ten and the commissioner is likely to get in and levy a suspension and fine of Jim Harbaugh here in November, which, seems way heavy-handed to me, and seems like, even if they have it, I guess their argument would be that it's not a rush to judgment. They have their facts. They have their ducks in a row. They have the compelling evidence. Here it is. And so, what's Michigan going to do? And I think that's what's going on with the president right now. The Big Ten commissioner saying, look, I'm just saying, I think that he's saying, look, we've got you dead to rights. Here's the video. This is what we've got. This is why we're suspending you. I don't know. What can you say, Jerry?
Well, what was I going to say here? I was reading this Joel Klatt, and he's from Fox News, and he was talking about rushing into decisions to appease a mob is not leadership. And that's what you can do whatever you want. You can suspend Harbaugh. You can do whatever you want. But if you're wrong, and by the way, who has the NCAA been talking to? I got a question for you, Denny.
Okay.
Was the NCAA really in town last week?
I think that they were in town. Yes,
I heard they weren't.
Oh.
From another news site, I heard the NCAA wasn't in town. I also heard, well, I didn't hear, everybody heard this, Wall Street Journal, Jim Harbaugh's contract was rescinded. No, it wasn't. So we've got a lot of people talking like they know all the facts, they got all the information, and frankly, I don't think anybody's even talked to Michigan yet.
Well, I think that's what's going on right now. But like to your point, Jerry, if there's this empirical evidence that they're laying at the feet of the president right now saying, gotcha, that's why we're going to put this suspension in, because we have, bulletproof evidence, against you. Michigan's just seeing it now today, and then they're going to act just like that without even being able to say, look, here's our argument. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, so what you're talking about, being able to build a defense, and, you can say, well, what defense do you have? You and I were going over some of the bylaws of 11-6-1, and, you can have, you can have third-party scouting, but you can't have it from the sidelines and it, being recorded. I mean, there's some gray area in there. And this is the way I have felt all along, that, Michigan got into the rule book and said, look, this is a way that we can work around this rule, and this is what we're going to do. And the NCAA is reading it like, no, that's against the spirit of the rule. We got you. And, and I think Michigan's saying, no, like, let's really parse this rule book. You really don't have us, but, they're saying, we've got the video. They're interpreting it one way, and they are the judge and jury, and Michigan's interpreting it another way. What kind of argument does Michigan really have? Getting into the off season, like, it's such a frenzy right now, Jerry. Like, people like Michigan, they make them sound like, they should be like, swept off the face of the earth, which we all know is, that's bananas, but if there's also the side where Michigan has done nothing, like, let's get into the off season and examine it. And I understand that the critics would say, yeah, but we've got you now. So, finally, we can do something, in season to punish you. And I still think, and maybe it's going to break over the next few minutes or in an hour, and, Harbaugh's going to be suspended for a game or two, and then we're just going to have to deal with it. But I don't think that should happen, for all the reasons that you're talking. I'm agreeing with where you're coming from.
Denny, we were looking over the rule. I mean, 1-11H, 11 or 1-6 or 11-6-1.
Yeah.
And 2001 amendment and 2013 amendment and all these different things. The least you could say is this rule is vague. It doesn't spell out what exactly is illegal. And to me, to suspend somebody with a vague rule in the middle of the season, I think you're opening yourself up to a freaking huge lawsuit. And this is defamation of character. When you look at what they're doing to Jim Harbaugh, this is defamation of character. And I'll tell you another thing. Our administration better show strong support for Jim Harbaugh. He's been a great coach. We have not even – have we received anything from the NCAA telling us what we did wrong?
No.
What is all this junk going on? We can't even get – we're not even being told what we're being accused of? Seriously?
Well, just through the reports, not through the NCAA, and I think that's what the Big Ten is coming to town. Now, just let's entertain.
Hold up, Denny.
Go ahead.
Before the Big Ten comes to town, the NCAA better be addressing it.
Yeah, it's not working like that. The NCAA, they do have to serve their allegations. So if it was just the NCAA, this would go into the offseason. Specifically now it is on the Big Ten and the rule book and the commissioner where he can go in and have an in-season suspension. That's where we're at right now. Let's just say that they do, Jerry. Let's just say that we find out that Jim Harbaugh's suspended tomorrow night and he's suspended next week for the game against Penn State. Hell, even, I don't know. Let's just say that those two, it could be right. Penn State and Maryland, the two road games, whatever it is, 2 games. Could Michigan survive that? You think Michigan could could get over the still have everything in front of them and be able to do that. Just what's your thoughts if that somehow comes out, which is not, it's not pleasant. It's heavy handed to me. I don't think it should happen that way. I think it sets a bad precedent for a lot of the things that you're talking about. Anytime little something comes up during the season, is everybody then let's roll out the evidence, scrutinize it, and start suspending people. Let's have a closed door meeting with all the other ADs. I mean, there's a lot of can of worms. Like the information. There's a lot of speculation that the film has been illegally obtained by an investigator. So I don't know, is that what we want? Is that where we're at right now? But what could Michigan survive without Harbaugh for 2 games?
Well, here's the deal, Danny. I played football in Italy way back in the mid 80s. And if you know anything about Italy, to say it's corrupt would be an understatement. Okay? It's a very, very interesting society, all right? And when I played football over there, they literally took a game off of us, which cost us the championship. But before the season was over, they reinstated that game in our column. My thing is, and I hope the players understand this and the coaches understand this. First of all, I think we could beat Michigan. I think we could beat Penn State and Ohio State if they combined both teams. Okay? I think that's how much talent we have on this team. Number one. Number two, the only thing that can beat Michigan at this point in time is Michigan. Our young men have got to be focused. They cannot be feeling sorry for themselves at this point in time. Forget all the junk, and I know it's hard because I've been in this situation. I saw, think about this, Denny. They're going to take something you earned off of you for something you had nothing to do with. They're taking championships away from people that have earned it for no reason, for gray areas. We're in a gray area. So let's go back to what I was saying. Stay focused, young men. Stay focused, coaches. Don't feel sorry for yourselves. That's what we did. That's what I did. I made that mistake. When we got the game reinstated. Now what? Okay? Play the game out. Play the game out. I honestly believe Michigan's got the talent in this conference that people envy and are jealous of. And I think coaches are on the hot seat right now. And that's why all this is coming out. This is coming out because third base, if he loses again, is in serious trouble. If Franklin loses again, he's in serious trouble. These coaches, these ADs, they're on the hot seat. They've been getting their butts shellacked by Michigan for 3 years now, and they don't have an answer as to why. And this is their best answer. We got beat by 40 points because Michigan stole a couple of our signs. There's a 35-second clock. You're making decisions within a 3 to 5 second time frame. This is not a big advantage. A big advantage is having bigger, stronger, faster kids on your football team. I think Michigan can survive it, but God help us if that's the case. Because I'll tell you right now, if I'm Jim Harbaugh, they suspend me, I'm getting the best darn lawyer I can, and I'm going after all of them.
Yeah, I don't like I don't like the idea of an in-game suspension, even if we were just, parachuting in on any season and some other team, which is going to be difficult to do for anyone. But, thinking about, doing it quickly without having this is a rush to judgment and not being able to go through and defend yourself. And yeah, it is about Michigan being able to, play this season, but it's also a precedent. You go through this and it's not like anytime you come up with something, but there will be a lot of things that come up during a season. Is then this going to be something where then Michigan is compelled, then they need to be hiring investigative firms and they need to be hacking into the computers and then they need to be, throwing out, details. And then this all needs to be weighted in season. And you're going to be making, quick decisions like that. That doesn't seem like a very smart thing to do anyway. And, to your point, Jerry, look, all of these, this is an incredible amount of money. I mean, there's a nasty side of college football. What do you think all of the other all the other athletic directors and coaches are going to say, especially the ones that have lost to Michigan? They're going to be like, yeah, we didn't like it. We just got our ass kicked. Of course, they're going to say things like, yeah, throw the book at them. And what do we think Ohio State and Penn State are going to do? Of course, they're going to do that. And Michigan State, so listening to them, I can't even listen to it. I can't even listen to any of them, acting like this is some of the heinous crime. And, we're not 100% sure, if it's heinous or not. So,
well, here's the deal. I mean, first of all, we got a story out by Chris Ballas, I think it is today, where Michigan is investigating third base and his brothers on a private investigation of Michigan football and possibly allegedly hacking in to Connor Stallion's computer to find his itinerary and find out what the information was. Now, that is I don't know anything about law, but that's kind of sounding criminal to me. But Michigan State coming out and saying this is as bad as assault that happens to an outnumbered group of young men with helmets and everything else. I mean, that guy should lose his job for saying that, because what that is, he's setting a precedent. Okay, you're allowed to attack somebody, but you can't spy on them. You can't decode their information. Excuse me for saying spy, because I don't believe it's spying. It's decoding. I like Coach Scarcelli's words there. But you got two of our top rivals that got a lot of egg on their face if this goes bad, especially Ohio and third base. If he loses and this goes bad, he's in serious trouble. That AD at Michigan State, in my opinion, he should be gone for what he just said.
Yeah, well, that's why you got to consider the source when you're talking about. Hey,
it's an athletic director of a university of a college football. He should be freaking gone. For that statement, he should be gone.
Okay, so let's make some final points here. I'll just come back to where I've felt like this since 24 hours. I know this eats at people, and it's distracting you, and it's not fun, and this is just what you have to deal with. It's big time college football. If the story's out there, there's nothing you can do about that part. But the piece where there could be a suspension in November, it seemed odd to me last night that it would happen this way, but then it was, overnight, making it seem like that it could be a reality. I still think that would be heavy-handed. I think it sets a bad precedent, and it doesn't give Michigan a chance to go through anything. But I don't know about the hacking and everything else, but that's part of what you're saying. Let's have an investigation. Let's let Michigan have their side. Now, it's all been one-sided. Hey, this is what the NCAA has. This is the video. This is the proof. And then Michigan just has to sit there and be like, okay, we can't say anything. They need to be allowed, to do something here. And, not in, Santa Ono, talking for 1 hour, being able to come through this with the commissioner. The more we talk about it, if you want to get into the offseason and scrutinize all this point by point every day, lawyers and committees all the time, Jerry, going through the rule book, I understand that part, but
absolutely. Hey, I'm saying that. You want to have an investigation? All the power to you. But with an investigation, all books are open. All things are open at that point in time. And to do this during the middle of this, in my opinion, third base, Penn State, I don't know if they ever even thought that Michigan would get suspended or have anything suspended happen in the hardball or anything. But what I think they really want to focus on is getting Michigan players and Michigan coaches unfocused on playing the game. By distracting them on these silly allegations, it takes away our focus on them. And I think that's at the core. That's what I think they definitely want.
Yeah, I would agree with that. like, Ohio
I don't think anybody in their right mind would have thought Michigan or the Big Ten would suspend Jim Harbaugh this deep in the season with all this on the plate. There's no way you're going to convince me that they thought that this was possible. What they wanted this to lose focus so they have an advantage in the game.
Yeah, not over rules. I mean, there's all kinds of things that we could say. Well, what about this? We'll stay because we're talking about a rule infraction, and as Jerry, we've talked about it. There's some, you can on one side say, hey, it's clear as day, but the other side, like that we're looking at it, saying it's not actually not clear as day.
No,
it's not.
No, and one of my first points I wanted to make is at this point in time, Michigan and Jim Harbaugh have done nothing wrong, according to the rule. According to the rules, Michigan has done nothing wrong. And I don't know. I don't know what a bylaw or a by rule is compared to a rule, but I got to believe it's closer to a misdemeanor than it is a felony, if we're looking at it in those terms.
Yeah, there is that part about it, like where they looked through it and they were going to change the rule, and they're like, "Yeah, we didn't really think that this was that big of a deal." And like, it sounds like this was, but that is in the off season, if we're talking about the fine or suspension, spirit of the rug, I get it, but thinking about coming down today on the eve of Michigan's first game in November, the number 18 or the number an 8-0 team, number 2 team in the country, that's nuts. From where I'm sitting to think about that part.
I can't even imagine it. I can't even imagine it. I tell you what, there's a lot of money that can be lost with the bad decision. Lots of things that can happen with the bad decision here. So I think if I'm Petit or whatever his name is, Pettit, if I'm him, I'm thinking seriously about pushing this into the offseason. Let's talk about it later.
I think so. I think
because I tell you one thing, Ono better be supporting Harbaugh. He needs to support Harbaugh at this point in time, and so does Ward Manuel. They both need to support Harbaugh at this time. And if you got something egregious, we need to see it, and we need to address it, and we need to counter it. We need to get our facts on the table too. At this point in time, they should be telling them, hit the door. Don't let it hit you.
Agreed. And I know there's you wake up and it's like Michigan people all have this kind of dialogue and everybody else has the other kind of dialogue. And if the tables were turned, Michigan, everybody would be laughing and, say, hey, throw the book at them. There is that part. There's some truth to that. And the people that like these Michigan hit pieces, they're coming out every day. And, these reporters, everybody hates everybody in the media now. And, ESPN, there's a few, people still like Desmond and Joel Klatt, a couple others. But the part where you could be against Jim Harbaugh, where Harbaugh came out before the season and wanted to have the players have a revenue share that directly hits, the NCAA and the big money. They're saying, hey, take the money and share it with the players. Now, if you're somebody that's really thinking about the money, you don't want anything to do with that. There are going to be a lot of people that don't want anything to do with that. So, there's another, spot, to go after Harbaugh.
Oh, there's all kinds of political ramification. Hey, listen, ESPN's losing millions. Okay. Their brand name. I mean, yeah, what would they fire 7,000 employees? In the spring? Right. They're losing big money. And when they lost the Big Ten money, when they lost the contract for the Big Ten, that's when they turned evil towards the Big Ten. They don't want 2 teams in the Big Ten in the CFP. They don't want a Michigan-Ohio State possibility in the CFP. That destroys the SEC at that point in time. And what to say, if Georgia gets beat, there might not be an SEC team in the playoffs.
That would be fun to think about. That is fun to think about. All right, Jerry, let's take, we'll take the next 3 on the feedback, and then we'll move to the game tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So let's see. Let's get to go blue. He's hoping for a lot of ass kicking for the rest of the season. No more taking a foot off the pedal in the third quarter. You think this affects Michigan on the field and what they might, be thinking about in terms of the opponent, Jerry? How do you think they handle that?
I went through this once before, Denny, when I was playing in Italy. And all I can say is, please, gentlemen, focus. Don't. And I know this is difficult. It's easier said than done. I'm not saying it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but you gotta turn off the news. Turn off the news. Just go to work. Just go to school. Just go to the football facility. Turn off the news. Turn off all this stuff. Just play it out and be focused. We've got a job to do. Everybody wants to knock us down because we're still on our job and they're getting knocked off.
Yeah, Jerry, the one thing about football teams and football coaches, you guys are drilled to be able to handle adversity. If you're getting ready to play the game and there's a turnover, a quick change, all right, you got to be out there and you got to be ready to go. If you're out there playing a game and there's a weather delay and you have to sit around for 3, you have to be prepared for that. If your head coach, like at the beginning of the season, is taken off the field, you have to persevere and you have to be able to still stay focused at the job at hand. And now here you are late in the season with this possibility. We don't know. I do think they have that kind of leadership where they could handle, a couple games. I hate to think about it, but I think they can handle it. I think they have that kind of talent. Now, whether they want to take it out on Purdue and beat them 100-0, their coach did come out where he didn't have much to say at his news conference, and then he's changed tune, midweek here, where he's coming out with a much stronger opinion. Maybe Michigan does want to thump them a little bit in the fourth quarter. Maybe. But look, you win this game by 10, 20, 30. I mean, you're okay. Just getting these victories. That's the one part. As crazy as it sounds about Harbaugh getting suspended, nobody's talking about yet taking Michigan off. I know there's some media people that have said, let's not let them play in the Big Ten or let them play in the college football championship. It looks like they're going to have a chance to play for everything. So go out there and take care of business.
Just take care of business. Focus on what you can control and let the other stuff. Don't turn on the news. Don't turn on the sports. Heck, you shouldn't be listening to how great you are anyways.
Jerry, are you going to the Penn State game and to tape some signs? Tyler, okay.
You know what? Jerry, who was that? Who was it that just said
that?
Tyler, I wish I was that smart. I wish I was smart enough to get those signals and know and decipher them and decode them and know what they're talking about in that quick a time. I don't think I'm that good.
You were. I mean, this was before this happened. You were at the Georgia-Kentucky game this year, and you were sitting across from the Georgia
absolutely.
bench, right? So did you at any point, did you take your camera out and start?
Well, I couldn't, Denny, because there were probably 100 people with black coats or black shirts on the other side. They had more coaches on the sideline than they had players. And I'm not being sarcastic there. I'm telling you the truth. They looked like there was about 100 coaches on that sideline.
All right, one more here to consider, Jerry. It's from BN, who says he doubts it's computer hacking. His bet is that someone that Ryan Day's brother knows in law enforcement gave him what they found on Michigan computers.
I don't know if that's not hacking. I don't know what is.
Well, yeah, I don't know if that's legally obtaining the information.
Don't you need a search warrant for all that stuff anyways?
Yeah, I don't know. And this is the part where you get down to it. You're like, oh, what are you guys crying about? The information's there. You're saying that you did it, but now you're talking about how it was obtained. What I'm saying is that, the Friday of the eve of your November schedule, you're getting ready to go. Let's not have the Big Ten commissioner talking about suspending your head coach, without a chance to defend yourself and not having this rush to judgment. That's what I'm saying here. So yeah, I keep feeling like, this is a possibility that could happen. I didn't think there was any possibility that they wouldn't allow him to play in the Big Ten championship game or the college football playoffs. And then this popped up last night about, maybe they'll just suspend Harbaugh. It seems heavy-handed. So that's why I'm yelling about it so much.
Well, it could be also that ESPN is the press is pushing this. This isn't nothing. It's nothing. Okay. The NCAA came out and said it doesn't affect much. There's not much here that's going to be affected with the coding signs and that sort of thing. Okay. Yeah. This is the media that
well, in the world, Jerry, where you have the thing about the media is that if we have 100 people, all 100 are going to have opinions, and the ones that make a lot of money are the ones that have, are very good at selling their points, are very good, some of them making outrageous points. The point, if you were looking at it and if you said, let's not rush to judgment, let's take a long look at all this, nobody's clicking on anything like that. You need to be like, let's ban this. I don't care what the NCAA says. I don't care what the bylaw says. And look, I can sit around making an argument, with the video and how it could help or how it doesn't help. I could go either way on that one. So, like, does it matter? There's a reason that Michigan would do it, would be my point about that. So, whether or not what the NCAA thinks, Michigan, I could easily come up with a way or my own opinion to say that, yeah, I mean, it's an advantage. But,
I think at the end, Denny, at the end of this thing, at the end of the rainbow, when this is all looked over and investigated, the NCAA is going to come back and say, we need to reevaluate this whole rule. And I got a little spot on, okay. And I got a little spot on our video, technology. Technology is a great thing. I'm very happy that social media and technology wasn't this great when I was in college. That might've been a problem. But now we have all this technology. There's no reason why the only reason why we're not utilizing the technology now is because of what's happening here. So people can point the finger and say, oh, they're winning because they're cheating. Okay. This should have been addressed a long time ago. When you've got that many amendments to this rule and it's so vague, don't you think you had to reevaluate it before this? This rule should have been evaluated a long time ago.
I think that's a good point. The thing about all the media, everybody's like, everybody's against Michigan here. It's not true. But if you're ESPN, who am I to sit around? They have the SEC and try to tell a Michigan fan, like, no, it's actually not. If you sit around watching Hot Take with Stephen A. Smith, what do you think you're going to get from Stephen A. Smith? What do you think you're going to get from Chris Russo?
Whatever ESPN wants them to say, that's what you're going to get.
No, that's not true.
I think that way. In this instance, I think that way.
Well, then how come both Michael Wilbon and Tony Kornheiser last night?
That's a great point. That's a great point.
Talked about it and gave their opinions, and both of them were more on a Michigan side where let's not rush to judgment. That was the thing. That if I could, paraphrase what both of those guys had to say. You're talking about a Hot Take show with Paul Feinbaum. And people are like, oh, let me fill you in on what's going to happen next when those guys talk. Like, I know what's going to happen when those guys talk, just like I know what's going to happen when Desmond Howard talks, just like I know what happens when the majority of the people, where they're going to come from. People are like, yeah, but Pat Forty's a hack. Pat Forty, for the 5 or 10 years that I've watched him, he enjoys the salacious side and the scandals of college football. He'll fan any flame when it comes down to any hit of scandal. He laughs about it. He jokes about it on his podcast. Oh, hey, thanks for the content. They love it. And there's a lot of people like, look, we sit around and talk about tomorrow's game against Purdue. We're going to talk about it for 3 minutes. People like talking about scandal. So everybody pointing the finger at everybody else, like, you guys all love it too. We're part of the problem when it comes to that.
Well, a lot of validity there, Denny.
All right, Jerry, we have a part where we're going to talk about the game tomorrow. Michigan is a heavy favorite, 32.5 points. It's a night game. Michigan coming off a bye. What do you think is the most important thing as you think about this game coming up to tomorrow?
Focus. We're going to come into this. I'm going to tell you right now, I believe that we're going to come into this game and we're going to look a little shaky at first. When you take a week off like that, especially the way we were rolling. The way we were rolling, we were just blowing through people, just really efficient. Our offense was just a juggernaut. Our defense was swarming. And so then we get this bye week. And I like the bye week where it is, to be honest with you. It's at the tail end of the season. That gives us that little breathing room at the end. But I could see us being a little shaky at the beginning, getting the rust off, and then we'll prevail later in the game.
Yeah, it depends how old you are. I mean, if you're a youngster, you're like, Michigan's just going to run through them like a hot knife through butter. I would say, a little different. I didn't meet one person last year that thought that Michigan was going to have a hard time with TCU. I think everybody was advancing them to the championship game. We can all go back, games against Iowa, games against Purdue, Minnesota. I know people that played in the 70s for Michigan. They're like, yeah, hey, we could beat the big ones, but sometimes, we tripped up on a game like Purdue, on a game like, Iowa or Minnesota. 90s, Jerry, I know you don't see, that. I mean, of course, not only as a player, as a coach. So yeah, like focusing in on this game, like, for the team. And of course they're going to hear all of this, like, oh, you guys are a bunch of big fat cheaters. So is your coach. I don't even know if he's going to be like that. I don't know how that affects them. I think that's going to be actually a positive. They can just go out there and play the game. But, I don't know. Like I've felt some other games that they might come out. I thought against Michigan State, it would be close at the half. Then they would blow them out in the second half. And Michigan came out and just ran roughshod all over them. No. So, I don't know about that part. Michigan will overwhelm Purdue with the talent that they have. And they are, the way that they play and the leadership that they have for the players and, how this coaching staff has them going. I don't see this being a close game.
Like I said, Danny, I'm waiting. I'm going to see, and I'm thinking that they're going to come out. They're going to be a little rusty, and then they'll get into their groove and put the game away.
Well, Michael's, I think he's rolling his eyes a little bit, saying that this is their toughest game to date. Michigan hasn't really had any tough games. I mean, they had to play on the road. I mean, they've been to every challenge here. What can you say? What Jerry is saying, you come out and this one after a bye week, that could happen. I mean, like, that's a factor. What do you say? Michael, like, Michigan's just going to come out and just roll through them. That it's possible. Like they did that against Michigan State. So they might do it with the rest of the schedule.
Hey, absolutely. I mean, like I said, I love this bye week where it's at. It's right before Purdue, so we get a team that we should beat. It's kind of like going back at the beginning of the season. What's your greatest improvement? Your greatest improvement is from week 1 to week 2. Well, this is almost like a start of a new season. So week 1, we're going against Purdue. Our most improvement could be against Penn State. So I like where the bye was. I think we're going to be a little rusty coming out, but I think we'll finish them off pretty good at the end.
The doctor pointing out that Purdue blitzes a lot, and they have 2 good defensive ends.
Those 2 defensive ends are very good. And now I will say this, and I'm going to point this out. They make mistakes, but they're both very good ball players. They fly around. They're active. They want to strip the ball. Strong. And, when you look at number 4 and number 5, Scoten, and I can't remember the other young man's name, I'll get to him in the video. They're both leading in the tackles for loss category. Scoten and the other kid, 1 and 4 in sacks. So yeah, this defense is capable. They got a free safety from Texas who forced 2 fumbles against Nebraska. So yeah, this team defensively, but they make mistakes, and that's their problem. They do blitz a lot, and when they do blitz, they leave some things open, and we're gonna see a couple things.
Well, let's do it, Jerry. Let's look at some of that tape.
All right, I got a few things here, Denny. All
right. Well, let's go to it.
Okay. This is Nick Skolton, number 5. Now, I think he is leading the Big Ten Conference in sacks, which he got 11 or 12, 11 and a half tackles for loss or something like that. But this is what I'm talking about. They make plays, but they also are they also lack some discipline at times. And here's a fundamental mistake Skolton makes. He's looking in the backfield. He's playing over the top, thinking he's going to make the play on the top, but he loses contain. And we all know this quarterback from Nebraska can run. He can motor. So as Skolton's finding in and trying to make a play he shouldn't be making, he's losing contain, and they make a big gain here on him. That's number 5, Nick Skolton.
5, all right.
Right here. See him? He's playing in there thinking he's going to make a play inside. He gives up the contain, and Harburger is gone. All right, let's go. All right, sack leaders, number 4, Kydron Jenkins. He's got 7 sacks, 11 tackles for loss, 11 and a half tackles for loss. First in the league in sacks, and I believe he's also first in the league in tackles for loss. Skolton is 4th and 10th. 4th in sacks and 10th in tackles for loss. These two are good ball players. They're good. They're strong. They're watch him dip his shoulder right here. That is an outstanding move here. This is what a defensive end, linebacker, or pass rusher wants to do. They want to cut that angle off on their offensive blocker. They want to cut that angle off and get to the quarterback with the straightest path possible. And here's Kydron dipping his shoulder, making a heck of a nice play. Jenkins dips his shoulder, comes underneath the guard, forces the quarterback out and around, and they're in pretty good position. Play over. But their outside players are very, very good.
For the record, Jerry, I have Michigan beating Purdue and covering the 32.5. Nebraska won this game that we're watching right here in the end, 31-14. They're up 14-0 right now. Nebraska is, as we talk about it.
Right. Well, Denny, that's why they play the games, Denny. How many times you seen things that are just absolutely crazy? Teams get beat by lesser opponents and then come back and make a huge upset. And Purdue, their name is spoiler makers. They've been known for spoiler making for a long, long time, and Michigan's been one of their top people that they've spoiled. So we can't take them lightly.
No.
This young man, Dylan Thyman, or if I'm pronouncing his name right, number 31 out of Texas, freshman. He's one of the top players as far as forcing fumbles for teams. And here he comes up, makes a great play. Later on in the game, he makes another forced fumble. Right here, he's ripping it out. Boom. Ball's on the ground. Purdue ball. Good defense. I mean, they're the worst defense in the Big Ten, but they make some plays. They can scare you. They can do some things.
Jerry, the doctor is saying with the stunt and twists that are going on along with the blitzes, they play man high with one safety and one linebacker, and he's saying hitch routes and slants should work against this team.
Well, yeah, again, when you run the ball against man coverage, you got people. This is what I was going to say, Denny. Here's technology at its best. Thank goodness. Thank God they didn't have social media when I was around. Look at that ball out right there. Beautiful job on the technology. This is a great job ripping that ball out, stripping them. Great play. But again, getting back to your point, Denny, when you go man coverage, remember those receivers are running downfield. Your back is to the offense. Running back gets past that first wave, they're usually gone.
Jerry, why are you saying that you're glad they didn't have that technology back when you were playing? Would there be an uppercut, a face mask? I mean, what would be going on? Punch in the gut? I mean, what are you saying there?
Denny, I was an altar boy in 8th grade, and I lost interest in it. So
okay, things were different, but you'd have to adjust if they had the camera on you. So
no, not too much. Anyways, okay. So getting back to this. All right, This is Nick Scoten. Now, we just saw Nick Scoten undisciplined, loose contain, and Nebraska got outside him. Watch what he does to this tackle. Remember, this is a Nebraska tackle. I think he's 6'6", 320. This is a Division I offensive tackle. Watch what Scoten does to this kid. Just runs him over. Boom. Right in his face. They can put pressure on your quarterback. They can come with those two big outside linebackers. They're good. They're active. They're athletic. So we've got to be concerned with that. I'll tell you what, Barnhart's going to have his he's going to have an interesting game with this kid. It's going to be interesting to see Barnhart go against this kid. Okay. That is Maccabee. He is what, fourth leading rusher in the Big Ten this year? I believe Coach Scarcelli told me he was a walk-on Monday, if I remember correctly. But this is Devin Maccabee, fifth in rushing in the Big Ten. Big, strong kid. Like I said, I think he was a walk-on. And let me see here for a second. Oh, God, never mind. Let me get to it. Okay. Good, strong kid. Great blocking. Great play here. So they're a capable team. This is a Division I, Power 5 team. I mean, they have capable athletes on it, and they're gonna make some plays. So we've got to be prepared. We can't go in feeling sorry for ourselves at this point in time. I do want to run this back a little bit. This is what I'm talking about, this young man, number 31. He's a good ball player.
All right.
Watch this hit on him. Boom, forced fumble. And that's how Purdue gets back in the game. This kid's a good ball player. And I want to go back to the young man who said about the one high, man under.
Yes.
And I think he's right. I think that's a little bit of what Purdue is doing here. But they're telling this kid, you're a run stopper first, because this is the second time I've seen him come up and support the run like this in the second forced fumble he's had on against Nebraska. So either they were begging Nebraska to throw the ball, or they're telling him you play run first and foremost. Okay, this is Hudson Carr, fourth-ranked quarterback in the Big Ten. Good mobility, good background. He's getting rushed, runs out of the pocket. Now this is a tough throw. He's running. He's on the move, rolling to his right, being chased down. He's looking for, and oh, by the way, I don't believe one of his best receivers was in the game this week, and I'm not sure if he's playing or not tomorrow. That's a heck of a throw right there. That's a tough throw and very accurate throw. Throws it where only his guy can get it. Beautiful.
Yeah. I don't want to see much of that tomorrow.
Again, very opportunistic defense. Two talented outside linebackers. Remember what we said in the beginning of the year, Denny? When I was in high school, our high school coach used to say, give me my two best athletes are going on the outside. And this is why. They're boxing and making everything a wall inside. I believe this is Jenkins stripping the ball, recovering it, and then taking it back to the house. Remember, Nebraska was up 24-6 at one point, or 24-0 at one point. Now they're in a game. It's good, not a bad team. They've got talented players. Let's put it that way. We don't know how good a team they are, but they've got some talented players. And that's all I got for us today, Denny.
All right. Well, hey, Jerry, I would expect a former player and a longtime coach not to get in here and say, don't worry about anything tomorrow. Michigan will just throw their helmets out there. They're going to win the game by 40. I expect you, Jerry, to come on here and talk about focus, especially with everything, all the noise, that's going around Michigan, that, this team's got to put the blinders on, come out and take care of business against Purdue, because all of this, the suspension, let's see the evidence, and, your head starts, Michigan, like a lot of people already acting like Michigan's won, like the Big Ten, or they're in the college football playoff and all that. They got a long way to go.
A lot of work ahead of us. And the best thing we can, I'm just hoping and praying that our kids are focused and don't even pay attention to this junk. There's nothing you can do about it anyway, so don't even pay attention to it.
No, and if you're just tuning in, and what's the latest, with Michigan, and we're the Big Ten commissioners in Ann Arbor, according to reports. So a chance that something happens in November in terms of a suspension to Jim Harbaugh. That is something that has been speculated about. I think that is heavy-handed. Jerry doesn't like the idea either. What about a chance to face the allegations and give your part, because we haven't seen any of that. That makes sense to me too. The people that were telling me last night, like, they have the video evidence. There's enough out there already. And I'm like, you got to be able to.
A lot of cases were lost with tons of evidence.
You got to be able to stand up to the evidence there in more than 1 hour. I know it sucks. I know it sucks for people that want, that always are looking for, to tumble something down. And there is something over the entire, not that I want to sound like I'm, giving an outs for the media, but it has been frustrating for the past 30 or 40 or 50 years, Jerry, if you're in the media and you see, recruiting violations, you see these things that are happening, FBI tapes right out in the open, and you're like, this team is guilty as anything. I mean, they have got them red-handed, and then they go into the offseason, sometimes 2-3 years down the line, the coach has been fired or has moved on to the NFL, all the players are gone, and then they come in with, some violations, and everybody's like, can't you do something when the team's out there? Well, I mean, this is the part where and I think that's why a lot of people are like, you got him, so let's go. But you have to give a team an opportunity to face the music. And
absolutely.
So, that's where I'm at with it. And, as much
common decent, that's just common law. I mean, that's common decency. I mean, you should be able to defend yourself. There
you go. That's it. Well, Jerry, where are you going? Are you heading off to watch other games tomorrow? Are you going to watch Michigan, in Michigan? What's the plan?
The plan for me, Denny, is to sit back and relax and watch Michigan take apart Purdue.
You going to watch any game all day long?
All day long, I'm going to be watching football, Denny. Doggone well. I might not turn it on ESPN. I don't know if I'm going to.
There you go. That's the way to do it. All right, Jerry, we appreciate your time. We look forward to talking with you again next week. Next week, Michigan at Penn State. So we kind of ratchet everything up,
I think that's going to put everything into perspective.
All right.
Welcome to the victors.
That's what I was waiting for.